I like this view right here. This view right here gives a good look of it. So basically, what we're seeing out here is you have these snowbursts like Andrew's talked about, where visibility sometimes with the wind can be a little low. And it not necessarily is it the middle of the road that you're probably driving on that you're gonna get the most impact, because that itself is wet. Where you're gonna get the most impact is on these junction ramps where you're trying to get on to 31. As you can see, coming up here, all these cars trying to get around, they're slower when they're coming to stops, when you're trying to turn. That is becoming the major issue out here this morning, more than anything else, is that slush is starting to build up on the side of the roads more than on the road itself. So when you're driving, you need to slow down to make those turns, keep a distance between you and the other car. But in Niles, compared to where we were in Elkhart this morning, not a whole lot of snow, but Niles, there's snow on the ground. You can tell snow is still coming down. It's one of those things where it's in these bursts. You don't really know how long it's gonna last or when it's gonna come, but when it does cause low visibility like Andrew's talked about all morning.
All right, and Caleb, we've got Andrew on the screen with us now, and Caleb, you've described it perfectly, because when we're talking about those side roads and everything, some slush has accumulated there. And we have heard of slide outs, we have heard of accidents. The bypass is always one area of concern. And Andrew, usually that's because it is an elevated surface, and that's going to catch some of that wind and the snow a little bit more than other locations.
And that's exactly right. And that's what our First Alert Weather team has been saying for much of this week. It's those elevated surfaces that would be impacted during today's First Alert Weather Day, where we could have some of that slush as well as some of that slushy accumulation on some of those elevated roadways. Let's get into this graphic here. This is US 12 in Buchanan Niles here. And if you look closely at the intersection here along US 12 up into Buchanan Niles, thanks to MDOT for this picture on a plow camera out there. Look at the slush that is out on some of the roadways. I'm getting some reports from Edwardsburg Niles area of around 2 to 3 inches of snow that fell overnight. And check out this image right now, a live look at downtown South Bend, showing the snowflakes that are currently flying in the air. In fact, if you look really closely at the intersection there, you can see a little bit of some tire tracks right there, right at the intersection area. And that's, of course, right on the heels of an elevated surface where the temperature currently right now is below freezing. Most of our ground temperatures still, though, are in the lower 40s. That's why I think still bulk of our main roads, mostly just wet, but we're going to tap into some low visibility at times where we do have some of these snow bursts arriving into Michiana. And a live look over downtown Elkhart. Quite the different picture out there outside of a few snowflakes flying around. Not much to show you in downtown Elkhart. Radar picture this morning continues to highlight some of these blue specks. And if you find yourself underneath one of these darker blue shaded areas, that's a quick little heavier burst of snow. And that's where visibility will quickly drop. And that's an indication of, again, where some of those bridges, overpasses, the shoulders of the roads could get a little slick, and a little sloppy snow could be falling on those locations. Widening out the map, we've got scattered flurries for most of Michiana outside of some of these snow bursts. And what I want to show you here on First Alert Weather Radar, if I widen this out here, look what is just up to our north. It's about 80 miles away right now, Milwaukee, Green Bay. The bulk of these darker blues are some intense snow bands that's dropping visibility quite a bit. And we're going to see the bulk of that mainly impacting Chicago as well as northwestern Indiana. But we are going to watch for some of these bands to even lower visibility right here in Michiana. The greatest impact from this, South Bend, Plymouth, Rochester, areas off to the west. Lesser impacts from this, Elkhart, Goshen, LaGrange, down towards Warsaw. And temperatures this morning, most of us right at or just below 32 degrees, allowing for, again, some of the snow to stick. If you have any outdoor plans, maybe you're heading out for that lunchtime frame for today, it is our lunchtime frame that's going to be the greatest impact, greatest area of concern throughout this First Alert Weather Day as those intense snow bands start to increase around 10, 11 a.m. lasting through about 1, 2 p.m. It's the lunchtime frame that, again, we're going to look at a quick reduction in visibility and additional slick spots out on the roadways. And again, our greatest concern is going to be areas along and west of US 31. Let's take this hour by hour with First Alert Weather Feed You Track. Some scattered flurries, some scattered snow showers. First thing out there this morning. That's been the case since about midnight to overnight. Now as we transition on into late this morning, here we are paused at 11 a.m. Notice how we're starting to get some of these darker blues showing on up. That's more widespread. Right now they're very isolated, but once we get into late this morning, early afternoon, these darker blues become a little bit more widespread. So we're going to look at some burst of snow that's going to quickly drop visibility. Visibility will be our greatest concern late this morning, early afternoon, and potentially right around the time the kiddos are getting ready to head on the bus to head home from school. So again, make sure that we're taking it slow. Make sure the headlights are on. Patience will be needed during the late morning, early to mid-afternoon hours. When we transition on into 4, 5, 6 o'clock, the bulk of that heavier snow finally moves on out. Our temperature for everyone across Michiana should be at or well above freezing, meaning that any snow that does accumulate should quickly melt. So that is certainly some welcome sight for those not ready to see the first snowflakes of the season. 119 days away for anyone counting from the first day of spring. Check out these wind chills though. Feeling like 18 in Plymouth, 19 in Rochester. You're the two winners for today for the chill that is in the air out there. And these wind chills, Tricia, are not going to improve a whole lot. I know a lot of folks too want to know how much additional snow could likely fall. We could likely be picking up around 1 to 3 additional inches of snowfall where those heavier bursts of snow do decide to move on through throughout the remainder here of this First Alert Weather Day. We picked up right around a ½ inch of snow right here at our WNDU studios just north of downtown South Bend. And we're likely going to see additional accumulation throughout the day. If you're watching this right now and if you have not put back in your snow brush in the vehicle, well, that's to do that. You're likely going to need it at some point for today.
Yeah, especially if your car's parked outside at work and that noontime band of snow really sets up. Folks, it's going to get hard to see out there around noontime today. You've been telling us and first alerting us to this all morning long. We need to get on the air here in just a little bit. Are you good to go now, or do you want to wrap things up?
Yeah, I'm good to go. Just a reminder that when this heavier band of snow moves on in, we could briefly get an isolated gust, maybe 20, 30 miles per hour. Stronger wind gusts back towards Chicago. So we are going to look for some visibility to be greatly impacted here in the next coming hours. Again, if you have any commute plans early afternoon, we are going to need, again, the patience needed. It's time to remember those winter driving skills. Again, no cruise control. Make sure the headlights are on. And again, just make sure, again, you're driving for the road conditions out there. Be cautious if you're heading on I-80, I-94 for today, as again, visibility is going to be greatly impacted, I think, Tricia, right around the noon hour.
Yeah, and I know you could talk about this all day, but we need to go beyond a broadcast here in just a minute or so. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on our website, WNDU.com, Facebook as well. First Alert Weather, we've got you covered this morning. You can join us live on 16 News Now here shortly, but keep it tuned here because we're going to have you up to speed on all things you need to know about Michiana's first snowfall of the season. Thanks for joining us.
Stay safe.